Hey there, Heather, it's Jeff Gooder. I welcome you to coverage of the Poker Players KW Club's Season 3, Week 6. It was a hectic week for a lot of players as they wanted to prove themselves worthy and to get themselves into the finals. So basically, I will talk about the format of the finals and all that, and with a visual representation after I talk about stuff. So hang on to this. This video is sponsored by the Friends of Cutter Historical. Hey, do you like talking about sports, learning about sports moments on a certain day and certain person's birthday? Do you like Degrassi? Do you like PC golf? Do you like headed goal soccer simulations? Do you like PS2, PS3, PS1 simulations? Do you like what is that other series? 10 about boxing and PC games and other stuff. Why don't join YouTube/Cutter Historical? Help this guy out. He has only 146 subscribers. I know his stuff is kind of stupid, but you know what? At least he makes the effort to do it despite having a job. So, what do you have to do? Hey, losers. Ow! Hey, stupid. Sorry about that. Evil Cutter is just pure evil. YouTube.com/Cutter Historical. You won't regret it. Alright, so heading into week 6, there was a bit of a boondoggle, if you will. We will start with the Rounders group because that's the house that I'm not in, and I want to give them the opening salvo. So, week 1 saw IM2D winning. Week 2 saw J Palm win. Then it was Baited Poker, IM2D again, and then it was Wings Rule. Could IM2D or Mr. Todd do it for the third time? So, there was 9 competitors out of 10. McBitter was bitter again for the third straight week. He did not compete in the live poker thing. I have a funny feeling he's playing possum. But anyway, he ends up with only 28 points. He had a second place. The 2 games he actually played, he had second and 8th, if memory serves me right. But it's got to be like shocking that, you know, he only plays 2 out of 6. Unless he's just playing for keepsies. Regardless, here's how the rounders ended up happening. In 9th and last place was J Palm, putting up 4 points. Not really having good effort. He did have 8 knockouts through the tournament, so J Palm got knocked out first. And 8th place with 5 points. Well, good news for J Palm is that his 4 points did not count because that was his second worst result. So it didn't cost him dearly. No Show Sales had 5 points. And again, this was his second worst situation, so the 5 points were not taken out of it. He ends up with 3 KOs and 40 points. And then next up on the list in 7th place with 6 points is Jimmer, who actually had a decent go at it, taking second place in week 5, but week 6 he just didn't find the magic. His 6 points count towards the standings, and he has 5 knockouts for 55 points. The next out was IM2D, who for the second straight week had a score that did not have to count in his standings. I mean, this guy was dominant with 2 firsts, a 5th, and a 6th in the first 4 weeks. He was just on fire. He did play the final 2 weeks. He didn't play possum. He did pretty well with an 11 knockouts, which was the house record. Well, the most in the house with 77 points. And no, he did not end up being top of the group in rounders, but that sometimes doesn't help matters. Next up with 10 points was Baited Poker, who had 2 terrible starting weeks, but those 2 results are off the list. He put up a good fight, a 1st, a 3rd, and 2 5th places, so he's at 64 points with 4 knockouts. Then it was down to 4. The first one knocked out was Clicker, who was trying his best to get a good result. He was kind of middle of the road every time, but his 12 points ended up being good for 4th place. And unfortunately, that was his best result. With one knockout, you can probably guess that things were not that great. So it's down to the final 3. And Wings Rule, who actually won week 5, was trying to go back to back, but he failed. But a 3rd place finish is still good. His third top 3 finish, if you will. He has 7 knockouts, 73 points. It was down to Newfoundland and Craftworks. Now, one needed the points more than the other, in a sense. And unfortunately for Mr. Dwayne, Newfoundlander, he didn't do as well as you think he was. But a 2nd place finish. He had 2 runner-up finishes and 2 top 3 finishes. So, yeah, 4 top 3 finishes. That's pretty impressive. The funny thing is, he had 18 points, a 6 and a 12-point performance being knocked out. So that's how good he was. He had 18 points that were dropped. That's pretty good. Most people had like 4 or even 10, but 18 points were dropped. He put up 7 knockouts. But the winner was Craftworks, who had a 2nd place finish in week 4 and a 3rd place finish in week 1. But otherwise, he was middle of the road. But he played every week. Give him credit. And he put up a 2nd place finish, meaning his 2 6-point performances in weeks 2 and 5 were knocked out. Did not count in the score. And he put up 4 knockouts. So, good on him. Craftworks put up a great effort. But wasn't enough to get over the top 5 and automatic final spot. Let's look at the board. All right, so as you see on the board, that's how everything finished. First place in rounders with 79 points and a spot in the final on May 12th is number 1 Newfoundland. So the Newfie guy actually puts up a performance. Fantastic job. He is in the finals. 2nd place with 77 points is IM2D. He had 2 wins. I know that if apropos that, he won twice and he's 2nd in the pool. And he had the most knockouts with 11. But 77 points enough to get him to the final. But, it's all about consistency. And, Dwayne was consistent. 2 seconds and 2 thirds. You got 4 top 3 finishes, whereas IMTD only had 2. In 3rd place with 73 points was Wings Rule. So Dale ends up doing the job and gets through in week 5 and all that. So good on him. And then 4th place with 72 points was Craftworks. So he did quite well. He won. He got himself into the top 5 to qualify for the finals automatically. And looking good for him. And on the bubble, 5th place, just by 3 points, was Baiting Poker, who survived. He only had 4 points to drop, but, he was consistent. A 1st, a 3rd, and 2 5th place finishes, did it in 4 knockouts. So he got to 64 points. So, here's who will end up in the wildcard game. Jay Palm was close. He only missed by 3 points. He had a strong start. He had a 1st and a 2nd, but he floundered near the end. Unfortunately, that's just terrible. He'll be going to the wildcard game next week. Jimmer as well, 55 points. So he moves on to the wildcard game. He did okay, but you need to be top 3 and all that. No-show sales with 40 points. My infographic board says that he scored less than Clicker. So Clicker should have had a no-show sales. But it doesn't matter. No-show sales, again, will be going to the wildcard game. I remember seeing him there. And the Clicker will be going to the wildcard game too with 41 points. Consistent, but not really that good. You need to knock people out, and you need top 3 finishes. And McBitter had 28 points, but you can't really blame him. He only played in 2 of them. So he played in 2 of the 6 games. So when he was playing, he was good. When he wasn't playing, he couldn't score points. But anyway, he might be playing possum. I would watch out for that. All right, so that's the end of that. And now we go to the group that kind of matters, I guess, if you're a Gamblers fan. The Gamblers, the OG squad. The group of death, if you will, because of how good the Gamblers were last year, getting 10 of their 11 players into the final table. Well, most of them were through the wildcard game, but who gives a crap? Some people did. Anyway, so at the Gambler's house, it was basically two guys crushing everyone through 5 weeks. So basically, it was like, well, we know two spots, but the next three will probably be up for grabs. We did have a couple of no shows in the Gamblers. Hawkins no showed again, but work commitments can ruin it to you. You might be playing possum. Who knows? Anyway, Master Keys decided for the first time not to show up, which is unusual because it's like he usually shows up to every game. But in the end, I mean, the guy had 2 first place finishes and 2 second place finishes and a third place. Can you imagine if he played? He would have done something that Rhythms, I don't think, did last year. Was all 6 games he was top 3. I don't think Rhythms did that. I think Rhythms had 4 or 5. Well, in the end, you know, Master of Keys, you know, decided not to play this week. Weird, huh? But anyway, it was down to 8 players because obviously with 2 no-shows. And the first victim was Krista KMFS 47, who tried her best to get towards the top 5. She did have a few decent finishes in 4th place, but you have to be top 3. That's basically the rule of thumb. And she only knocked one person out in the tournament, and it gets 43 points for that. Next up in the elimination table was Rhythms, who I think was kind of playing loose, a little too loose, footloose. He takes 7th place with 6 points. He had 2 7th places. Those were the low point of his campaign. He ended up taking 2nd once and 3rd, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So basically, it was amazing for Rhythms and all that. Doing all he could. So anyway, yeah, I think he was playing a little loose on that one. In 6th place with 8 points was Briberer, who had a good start in weeks 2 and 3, taking 2 good finishes, a win and a 2nd place. But other than that, he was just inconsistent, unfortunately. His 2 5-point performances were wiped out. But he ended up with 9 knockouts. That's pretty good. 69 points. Does he realize he had 69 points and how people are going to giggle at that mark? Anyhow, next on the list in 5th place with 10 points was Hockey Dad. The worst part about Hockey Dad is that, as someone who's seen his performances, he starts out fast and then he falters near the end. Kind of concerning, don't you think? Well, he's been okay. He had a 4th and 2 5ths, but unfortunately, consistency was not there. 4 knockouts, 40 points. No bad. Not bad. In 4th place with 12 points is Ryan I Hate Humans, who was aiming to try to get into the top 5. Ryan had a plethora of middling results with a 3rd place in week 4, but in week 6, he got 4th, which was his 2nd best finish. And that's not good. 4 knockouts, 48 points. So you're probably thinking to yourself, hang on. There's one name you haven't mentioned yet that you should mention. Well, we'll see. So in 3rd place with 16 points was Deesius. Stupid Deesius. Sorry, bias there. Jeff, stop being so biased. Deesius, the new guy in town. He put up a 2nd place in the Gamblers' premier performance. It's like, what the hell? But his 3rd place finish actually ended up 2nd, his 2nd best finish. He had a few 5th place finishes and 2 terrible performances. So with 4 knockouts, he puts up 60 points. Now, came down to 2 people. Summer, who didn't really need to win, but he probably wanted to push the agenda a bit. And some guy by the name of Cutter2734, who might pull off one of the biggest shocks ever. Could this be a gigantic shock? Could this be one of the greatest moments in history? Can he do it? Can he do it? No. As you can see by the infographic, you see Cutter2734, that's my name. I put up 20 points for second place. So, despite my best efforts, I failed miserably. And I did not get into the top 5, as you can guess. So, might as well go through the top 5. So, Master Keys, despite sitting out week 6, had 9 knockouts, 97 points. He had a third place finish dropped. Can you imagine? The guy freaking was top 3 every game he played. But he will be basically the guy that everyone will be gunning for. He'll have 13 guys aiming for him. And I hope he can deflect those bullets. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, Summer did it again. For the 3rd consecutive week, he won the Gamblers. And we thought he was basically in the wrong place at the wrong time because, you know, the Gamblers is the group of death. And we thought there's no way he's going to push himself top 5. Well, we may have been duped. I think we were duped, and I think he duped himself. Putting up not 1, but 3 straight wins, 14 knockouts. 14 friggin' knockouts. Now, in Poker Stars, you get 2 knockouts if you're the winner. You knock out the second place guy, but you get kind of a knockout for knocking yourself out. That is not a good analogy, but that's the way it is. So he got 6 through that, so he would have had 8 knockouts without those 6 knockouts at the bottom. 3rd place was Rhythms, as you can see, 74 points with 6 knockouts. The defending champion, if you will. He had 4 top 3 finishes, but 3 third place finishes and a second place finish, and then the rest were 7th place goofballs. And he had 6 knockouts. Speaking of the 6s. Bryber survived and took 4th with 69 points, 9 knockouts. You know, he was consistent. He won week 3. He took second in week 2, but his knockouts were huge, putting up 9 of them. That's how he basically got to top 5. And then you had Deesius with 60 points. Not bad for his debut. He's got to the final table with 4 knockouts. You know, he was okay in a bit, but when he played to be top 5. That's what you got to do sometimes. And as you can guess, despite my second place finish and despite me pushing hard and being a little more aggressive than I normally am, I took 6th place overall. I mean, I was very consistent. I mean, I had back-to-back 4th places and then back-to-back 6th places for 8 points. I always seemed to be 6th when it came to the Season 2 efforts. So, yeah, that's terrible. But you see 2 knockouts next to my name. Normally, you'd be like, hang on. He's not capable of knocking out people. He's too conservative. Well, when you knock out Ryan and you knock out Deesius, and shockingly get to the final 2, like I was the guy who knocked them out, you got to be shocked. And I shocked myself because normally I'm not the one to be very aggressive. But I was aggressive, and I did pretty well for myself, although I was in a losing effort. I Hate Humans ended up with 48 points with 4 knockouts, as you see there. Krista ended up 8 with 43 points. Hockey Dad ended up 9 with 40 points, but at least he was consistently playing. And Hawkins did not really play but he only played 1 game. So if I look at all his numbers, I think he would have been decent. But is he playing Possum? We don't know. So to note, of course, if you see the infographic, is that the wildcard game is May the 5th, which is next Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So 10 players will be going for 4 spots. So 10 people are in the finals, as you see the qualified stuff in that and the other infographic. And then there's only 4 wildcard spots up for grabs. And it's not 2 gamblers and 2 rounders. It could be 4 gamblers. It could be 4 rounders. It could be 3 gamblers, 1 rounder, or 1 gambler, 3 rounders. But the simple fact is that the wildcard game is going to be huge. I mean, if I look at my numbers correctly, how do I predict myself? Do you think I can be top 4? Well, I was in a tougher position last year and I made it through the wildcard game to the final. Anything can happen. And usually does in the WWE. Oh, I'm not doing a WWE video? Sorry, I'm doing a poker video. Fuck. Anyway, regardless, it was fun with the regular season. Now the wildcard game comes, and hopefully I can freaking win, and hopefully I can give you some stuff about the wildcard game, because that's what I do. That's always what I do. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.